Good afternoon. We would like to welcome you to Moving Math to Digital Spaces Session 2. My name is Kirsten Sarginger, and I'm joined with Bernadette Salgarino and Jenny Sarginger. Jenny Chang. Jenny
Thanks,
Chang.
Kirsten.
We are the three mathematics coordinators of the Santa Clara County Office of Education. We are excited that you joined us and look forward to working with you today. A very important first step is to create a schedule. Under the CDC guidelines for managing anxiety and stress related to the pandemic, the CDC recommends maintaining regular routines that include time for fun and learning. You will want to decide how much time students will spend each day engaging in school. For earlier grades, it might be 1 to 2 hours a day. For upper elementary and middle school, maybe 3 to 4 hours. For high school, possibly 4 to 5 hours. Here are some sample schedules from local school districts. So the first one I'm going to share is Union School District, which is located here in San Jose, California. It's a K through 8 district, and if you go to their Union School District at-home learning page, you'll see on the top right, it has the different grade levels. Jenny, will you click on grade 2 for me? If you scroll down, first of all, it has a message to parents and students about expectations. Then if you scroll down, Jenny, it says what a week looks like.
Mm.
And you'll see each day it has, first thing they'll do is go to Google Classroom. They have reading assignments, and they have math assignments, and then they have open enrichment. So grades K through, or first grade really, through 5, pretty much follow the same schedule. Jenny, will you click on the 6 through 8 tab? Yeah. And if you scroll down to that one, you'll see that they have a daily schedule that starts at 8:30 and ends at noon. And every day, for every subject matter, they do a review and check. They have a video for the students to watch. They have an activity to do. They communicate with their teacher, and they receive feedback. So this is a structure that Union has put in place for their middle school programs. Jenny, will you now click on Campbell Union High School District? So this is a high school district that's located in San Jose as well. And you'll notice that in the mornings, they have tutorials, and they also have their BAPA physical education classes and their CTE classes. They have time for lunch from 11:30 to 1, and then the afternoon is when they have their content areas classes. And that's when they can check in with their teachers. So that's what a high school district has done. One more I'd like to show you comes from Katie Novak, who's done a lot of work with universal design for learning. And she has a list of activities to do for each day. Jenny, will you click on day 12? It's the one on the top left. I just click on on the purple. And on the left-hand side, it has the time, and then it has the activity, and then details, and it has live links around different resources, different videos, and a lot of this is around creating and designing things that you can have materials at your house or outside. And again, it gets students to be outside. You'll notice that it starts in the morning, and it goes till, I believe, around like 2:30 or 3. So it's a full day of activities, and I wouldn't even call it instruction, because a lot of it is creative time and creative play and exercise and just getting outside. So there's several other links that are on that slide deck that you can look at to see some schedules, but we just wanted to share some schedules with you so you could get an idea of what some districts in Santa Clara County are doing as far as creating a schedule. So now I'd like to open it up to the group and ask, what has your district or school site created a schedule for your students yet? If so, what does it look like and how is it working? Another question I could ask is, are any of you familiar with any other district schedules? Do they look similar to this? Are they very different? Or what are you seeing out in the field?
It's interesting, Kirsten, how different school districts are responding to the challenge of creating a schedule. And some of them are still thinking about how they could create ways to make it, I would say, doable for families who who are challenged to have Wi-Fi's or Chromebooks or things like that. So I saw in Novak's schedule that even in the morning, walks or jogs or runs or exercise or things like that are fun ways to have or be included in the schedule, so that even when they have difficulties accessing those learning materials through internet, that there are other ways to, I would say, complete some tasks within the day to make it meaningful for kids.
Thanks, Bernadette. Thank you. Anyone else have anything to share about schedules?
So in the research that I've been doing and some videos that I've been watching of teachers, I see some teachers creating like a list of assignments per week that students have to get done, and then organizing them in a digital learning platform like Google Classroom. I've also seen teachers putting things into Canvas. And then I'm seeing lots of choice boards out there. So to give students lots of choice of the things that they could be learning at home. And I really liked that Katie Novak resource that you shared. I hadn't really seen that one yet.
Yeah, I like the idea about the choice boards as well, because there's some students who are really early morning risers and like do really well in the morning, and others who, work better in the afternoon or early evening. And so kind of, saying these are the tasks that you need to do, and you kind of look at your own schedule and what works best for you. That's definitely one way to do it.
Kirsten, what I'm seeing is kind of this like rolling effect of flexibility, I'll call it. So the beginning is like these major stopgaps of how can we send home 2 weeks worth of packets, right? And so there's a lot of districts who are still in that phase of, okay, the students are still doing these packets that we sent home. The second round of, or the second phase that we're seeing is, okay, we've made this decision after whatever our spring break is, we're going to go into distance learning. And so I think there's districts that are still grappling with what that schedule might look like and what their policies are in terms of what they're going to ask their teachers to do. So we're seeing a lot of like differing things. I know Milpitas, a lot of teachers are on Zoom or Google Meets with their students. And so there's some synchronous learning happening in that district as well as others. And then some districts that are just totally like asynchronous. The flexibility is like totally a big part of what their schedule is. And it's just like, whenever you can do this work, do this work. So I think we're going to see like rolling phases of what a schedule might look like. So if you're out there and you're in one of these like beginning stages, like just know that, that's okay. Wherever you are, it's however your district is responding to this. That's, I think we're going to see that up until the end of the school year. I know that we haven't announced that school is not closed until the end of the school year, but I think districts are going to continue to adjust to what's happening at the homes in order to like make learning happen more.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think everyone's just kind of figuring things out and looking at what's working best for them. And I think it's important for teachers and for students to give feedback to those that are creating these schedules, just so they can make it work, because they're the users. And, it's really seeing what works best. All right. So now let's move on to our next strategy. which focuses on the launch. And I think Bernadette, you're going to be leading this.
This is Jenny. I'm actually leading this
Sorry,
one.
Jenny.
Yeah. So as we know, every great lesson grabs the attention of our audience and hooks them in such a way that the engagement is high. And I'm here to tell you that math class is not going to be any different. So today we have 4 fantastic math launch activities that can take 10 minutes or less to launch. And the beauty of each one of these resources is that once you're familiar with them, you can even extend them over the course of several days to encourage the idea that math learning and discovery is infinite and doesn't abruptly end at the end of 15-minute period. So each one of these images on board here are hyperlinked, and so they'll take you to the original site, which I'll show you in just a moment. And then later on, I'm going to close it out just by talking about the activity pages that you can see hyperlinked underneath each one of these launches in just a moment. So let me go ahead and begin by taking you over to Which One Doesn't Belong. This is a great launch activity for any and all grades. It is one of the most open-ended math launch activities. And just to take, I won't click through all of them, but you can see that there's tons of other other websites that are listed here. So just a big plethora of resources. But if we went through and we started with something like shapes, the basic idea of this is to ask one question, which is which one doesn't belong. So we took a look at this one right over here. We can say that the top left or the top right or the top, bottom right or bottom left, and ask our students which one doesn't belong. So we took a look, we might be able to say, well, the bottom right doesn't belong because it's the only shape that is shaded. And the beauty of which one doesn't belong is that there is at least one reason, one rationale for why each shape doesn't belong. And so it's a great way to get children to get involved into the mathematics without feeling like mathematics is immediately thrown in their face. They feel safe to share. They feel safe that any and all of their rationale that they have is being heard. The one next that we're very excited to share is called Would You Rather? And so this Would You Rather was based on this concept of posing 2 scenarios and then having you think through the scenarios about which one you would rather choose. And so one of the things that you'll notice is that the would you rather scenarios are listed by grade spans. And so if you picked any one of these grade spans, you can find ones that are appropriate to the grade span that you're interested in. And so something like this, would you rather read 12 pages every night in a chapter book with 144 pages? Or would you rather read 50 pages 3 times a week in a chapter book with 132 pages? And so it really gets the kids up and at them and really start to create some really interesting debates about which one they would rather choose. And one of the nice things about it is that it doesn't provide you a whole plethora of constraints, but rather those constraints are ones that your students can determine for themselves and or for small groups. And so being able to then share, well, I would rather A or B, and these within this context, and then constantly being able to go back to that argument as the context and the constraints change. Moving on from there, this is one of my personal favorites. It's visual patterns. And the creator of visual patterns started off as a middle school math teacher, and it was a way for her to engage her students in finding mathematical patterns, but doing them in a very visual manner. As you can see up here, she has over 380 images, one for at least a day. And they start off fairly simply by asking you to figure out how many squares, or in this case, how many squares are in each step. And so here you're given step 1, step 2, step 3, and then the question goes, what step 4, 5, 10, 43 will look like. The solution is down here below, but it's a great way for your students to really engage in pattern finding, and then being able to use a template, which we'll talk about in just a moment, to not only represent their ideas algebraically, but tabularly, graphically, and also in words. And then the last launch activity that I wanted to share is Desmos. And Desmos is a great, it started off mainly for middle school and high school for a lot of graphing. And then it's really expanded upon that. It's really grown in their elementary as well. And you can see here all their featured collections, and you can pick any one of these topics to look forward to and to share. And it works very similar with Google Classroom in the sense that you have a code and you project the code and you share the code. One thing I really appreciate is that a lot of our ed tech companies are saying, hey, you can use any one of these activities, and they're, you know, all devices, across all devices. And here they'll even tell you that it's very limited for mobile, but for tablet and laptop, it's great. I wanted to highlight this one in particular because Desmos, while it is as a math site, I thought this was something that I thought was really interesting, and really how they're kind of building out Desmos to be more than just about mathematics, even though the crux of the work that they do is mathematics. But here is a screen for checking in. And I just thought that this is a really cool check-in, and it's such a great way for, especially as we talk about launch, right? And we're wanting to introduce things to our students, but not overwhelm them. I thought this was a really easy way to do it. And you have a teacher, or excuse me, you have a preview of what the lesson looks like before you can go ahead and add it to your own library. But, you know, how are you feeling today, right? And then they have like a scale with a cute little robot. And then if they want to add more, they can. And then checking in, let me know how you feel today, using a graph, right? Am I at the intersection of energetic and positive? If you want to feel more. And then here's a graph that represents your stress level, which I thought was clever. And then making a sketch. And down here below, they even have teacher moves that allow you to tell how you may or may want to adjust. And so those are the 4, there's so many more, but those are the 4 that we really wanted to take you to, and to talk to you guys about in terms of what are just quick and easy ways to launch math classes. And as I mentioned earlier, that there's these activity pages. And if you click on any one of these activity pages, it'll take you to a folder full of pre-created lessons that you can use right away with your classroom. And we definitely encourage you to use these until you start to feel comfortable on your own. And then you can start creating some based off of the 4 that we recommend, or others. And so we have enough in here to get you through for at least 30 days. And we hope that you check them out and let us know how they work for you. So my question for you is, how might you use any one of these resources as a launch activity for your math period? What's something that you may want to kind of readjust from your typical, 45, 50-minute, 60-minute math period, and say, hey, I'm going to add this instead. So what are some thoughts that come to you initially?
So I was looking through the Seesaw activity library today, specifically for high school resources. And I actually found a teacher in there who was putting all of these type of activities into Seesaw. So would you rather activities, which one doesn't belong, some estimation 180. I saw some open middle problems in there, but I think it's a great tool for having students show their thinking easily in different ways, because they can write out their answers on a piece of paper and then take a picture of it and then add it to the Seesaw feed, or they can draw right into Seesaw if that's easier for them, or they could just record themselves saying an answer. So I thought that was really interesting that some teachers are really using Seesaw to take these math tools that you just showed and have students engage.
Yeah, thank you. And I love that teachers are really being, this I think is just such extraordinary times. We're really being pushed to think about, how do we integrate more things than one, right? And we're really thinking about, like, how do we find that intersectionality between a math tool and a learning management system and like an online portfolio system, and how do we bring the 3 together and really make it work for our kids? Thank you for sharing.
I just love all of the examples that you've brought up, because if a teacher really wanted to, they could use all of these websites, or I don't even know what to call them because they're not like necessarily tools, but they're lessons for the rest of the year. And I think that's what teachers are looking for right now, is how can I just like find something that is rich in cognitive interest for the students and cognitive demand, that can easily be replicated every day if I need to, or every week. And so all of these examples do that for the teachers.
Yeah, I think one of the best things about these is that they're so engaging. Like when you're in the regular classroom with students, they really love doing which one does them belong. They really enjoy doing would you rather. And so, finding a way to get this into distance learning is super important. And so I love, like you said, Jenna, about Seesaw and finding ways to do that, because this is fun. Math is fun. And this is what these are experiences that make math enjoyable, and also support that critical thinking and problem solving that we want students to.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Yeah, true. I mean, in addition to what Kirsten has mentioned and Abby, as well as shared by Jenny, there are multiple ways of approaching those different tasks. And so kids, I mean, stress level is low, right? But the approach to reason, to justify, to think deeply about what those mathematics really are is giving our kids enough experience to, again, to have fun in mathematics, right? To find enjoyment in doing mathematics. So it's really nice that hopefully teachers could use these websites to encourage our kids have that time to really enjoy doing some mathematics by these activities.
Yeah, and I think as districts are trying to figure out for themselves, like how they want to move forward, is it going to be continual learning, right? And adding on new information, or is it going to be a review? We can really push ourselves to think about what is it that mathematics is, right? Is mathematics a series of lessons, or is mathematics about really pushing ourselves to find the joy in some of this work, right? Really pushing ourselves to think about, well, what are the different ways we can represent what we're seeing visually? And so I think this is a good time for us to figure that out for ourselves, especially in mathematics. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move this forward and launch us into strategy number 3, which is creating e-learning experiences.
All right. So this strategy is actually putting together strategy number 1, which is our schedule that was shared by Kirsten earlier, and the tools and resources shared by Jenny, but also thinking about the tools that were shared in our session number 1 yesterday. And so I have created a sample of middle school and high school learning experiences for our students. But before I'm going to share that, thinking about when trying to do these, I thought about ways that could help our teachers also when they're trying to create this. And here are 6 tips that I thought would be beneficial as well as helpful for teachers when they're thinking to create their own. First one is the learning objectives, or the expectations that they are asking kids to do when they're doing these on their own. Are they clear? Are they realistic? And so having clear learning objectives for e-learning is a great tool for building the structure of the content that they're going to be creating. Knowing that exactly what they want the kids to achieve will help our teachers organize how they are going to put together materials in a way that it becomes meaningful for our students. The second one is learner-centered approach. So, meeting different e-learning needs has always been a challenge. And so if our thinking is having our learners enjoy the activities that they will be doing, not overloading them. That would be a fun way to have them experience mathematics in a different way. The third one that I thought would be helpful also is addressing the learners' emotions. How are they connecting to the different activities that we offer them, knowing that many times they will be on their own when they are accessing these materials, and there are times when they will be with you as a teacher, facilitating the discussion when they are having to connect with these activities. The benefit of using real world examples, and of course the benefit too of reflection, as well as having it doable for all those kids. So all of those different things I thought was useful when I tried to create this particular example. This one that is on the screen is a 7th grade week-long lesson that we tried to create. And as you can see, there are several choices that they could do. But the first row are actually making connection to what's really is happening right now. I have used some videos from CDC as well as the World Health Organization to create some connection of the things that's happening in within us, in our community. But also looking at 2nd row and 3rd row are some applications now of what Jenny has shared a while ago. The visual pattern, which one doesn't belong, would you rather, and so on and so forth. But there are also games embedded in here, like using the Enrich Mathematics website, where they could drag and drop some numbers and patterns to make that particular multiplication square complete. And there's also this game, multiplying fractions, using the millionaire game. I forgot the name of that game, but that's really is cool too, to have them see how the game that they're seeing from the television could be done with fractions as well. So embedded in here is also the use of Padlet, but also a way to use that as a landing page for kids to reflect on their e-learning experience. The second one, Jenny, if you could click on the high school one, this is an example of integrated math 1 lesson that I tried to co-create with a high school teacher. And this is all about parallel and perpendicular lines. And again, embedding some things like a YouTube video, the use of quizzes to keep them abreast of the application of this particular concept. Again, Desmos is also an interesting website to embed in the lessons to be more interactive. The use of Flipgrid when they're trying to share how they have approached their solutions to the problem. And again, which one doesn't belong is part of the lesson of that particular week-long plan. 3-act math, where they could go out just within their home, where they could do some activities such as the 3-act mathematics. Visual pattern is there, and so on and so forth. So in creating this, it was so meaningful to think about how kids may be able to put themselves meaningfully into the different activities, but also find some ways to interact in a way that was different from how they're receiving instruction from the classroom. So yeah, these are some ways to put together the schedule that was presented in strategy number 1. 2. So my question, what processes have you used to create your e-learning lessons?
Well, for me, I like to Google Docs that you just shared, those are very beautifully organized. So whenever I see something out there on Twitter or when I'm doing my searches online and I really like it, it might not be the right content that I want, but I like to start from a template, something that's already there and prepared for me, and then kind of build from there and take suggestions from that I see from other people, because I really liked the way you had things organized in tables, and then everything was clear on the bottom. If you have any questions, you can contact me. These are my office hours. And another thing that I saw today that a teacher had set up that I had never really thought about was they set up a Google Voice number, so that students didn't necessarily call their personal cell phone, but a number that they set up through Google, and as a way for families.
I know about not giving the personal numbers, because otherwise too much calls and things like that, but a Google number.
I think what's the learning goal? Bernadette, you talked about that on the first template that you shared. Like, and what's the key that I want, the key learning that I want my students to have? And then how can I support them through the distance learning environment to be able to meet that learning goal? And so then looking at the different resources that are out there to help them, maybe, doing a launch with which one doesn't belong would work. Maybe Desmos is the way to go, maybe using Flipgrid, but really looking at the content and then looking at the strategy or resources that best meets that specific. I think that's the way that I've seen some teachers working on this moving forward.
Thank you, Kirsten.
I don't have an example. I have a wondering.
Hmm.
So the really powerful math instruction that I've experienced and I've witnessed in other teachers has always had some aspect of constructivism and collaboration, at least in thought. I think back to Kirsten, I actually remember you came to Lucha when I was a teacher and did number talks with our staff. And I thought, oh, well, that's like for me, it epitomizes some really great math instruction. So it's relying upon all of the great thoughts in the room to build the math up. And so my wondering is, as we move forward in distance learning, how we can start to incorporate some of that in the way that we structure our lessons and in the experiences that we're structuring for our students. So how can we still capture the learning that would have happened in tandem? So there's a lot of great resources right now that can support students in exploring how math thought can be considered outside of typical math constraints, right? One of the great things about which one doesn't belong is that it's not necessarily the math that's supporting the answer, but the math is there for when the student wants to rely on it. But my wondering still is, how can we still rely upon that social aspect of learning, especially in math?
Yeah, I think some of these programs that are out there, these platforms such as Pear Deck and Nearpod and Seesaw and things like that are making it definitely a lot more accessible. I think one thing that I'm continuously running into is, how do you take what's traditionally a 60-minute lesson, and as you're building it out for distance learning, kind of keeping yourself in check to think, okay, how am I going to build those pieces for collaboration? So if I'm on a Zoom or I'm on a Google Meet, how do I not just make it into direct instruction, right? Because it would so much easier if I just deliver it to you that way, and you just sat and you received. But we all recognize that that's not how learning occurs. And I think Desmos is one of those platforms where you get a lot of real-time feedback as you're pushing out the tasks that you want the kids to do. On the user end of it, the teacher user end of it, they get all that information, and then I could willingly go through and hand pick a handful of student work and push that back out without showing any student information, and then kind of engage in conversation that way. That said, that's like something that you have to play around with and you have to get familiar with. You have to even start by just creating an account, right? Creating an account, looking through some of the lessons, start adding them to your own library, trying them out. And then once you start to feel more familiar is then using the more robust features in Desmos and Nearpod and Pear Deck, and then start to add more. But I think, Abby, you bring up such a great question, because the mathematics alone, the content alone is just but one piece of it. The real learning really truly happens with the collaboration. So I think that's something that, we still have more time to figure out, and we can do this all together. So.
True. I've been thinking about that too, now that you've mentioned about number talk, right? So how can we, through distance learning, do number talk? Well, maybe not only that, but also when you mentioned about that which one doesn't belong, when I was looking at several classes way back, 4 kids are working together to figure out which one doesn't belong collaboratively. So now how can we, again, do that with collaboration among kids, doing it through distance learning? So yeah, thanks, Abby, for pointing that out.
Well, Bernadette, when you brought up that point just now, like 4 kids working together, I'm wondering, like, think about breakout rooms in Zoom, right? Like you could create breakout rooms for students, right? And have them work together and set, I don't know, a timer for like 10 minutes where they're working together on a task and they're coming back. So something like that.
Thanks,
might work.
Kirsten.
Yeah. So, but I think it's an important piece that we don't want to lose. Like I agree with Jenny, like this very easily can become direct instruction. Watch a video of me doing this. Now practice what I did, and then, take a test on it or whatever that looks like. And so I think we need to be really cautious that math doesn't become that in the e-learning environment.
I have another question, and hopefully you can help me with this as well. So we tried the middle school lesson plan for today, and several of the kids actually gave us feedback that they cannot access those videos because on their Chromebooks, school Chromebooks, YouTubes are blocked. So the first row, they immediately told me, Ms. Salgarino, those were blocked. So what could be, help me, how can I unblock that?
I wonder if they could do it on the Vimeo.
Okay.
So using a different platform. You would have to I wonder if you would have to download the YouTube video and then create like a Vimeo.
Okay.
That would be the first thing that came to my mind. I don't know, Abby, Jenna.
Well, you didn't hear it, but I did a literal face palm. Like, oh my gosh, can we open these things up a little bit? I mean, so if I'm not a student, but if I'm a teacher, my first question or my first action is to write as many emails as I need to my IT director to say this needs to stop. There's this is a total equity issue at this point of not only do my students some of them not have the devices, but now that the students who do have the devices can't even access the information that I need them to. So how can I be an advocate on that end in the district level, say, hey, there's other districts who have YouTube open. It's not a Pornhub that, that it doesn't need to be. There are restrictions. How can we get this up and running right now? Because if we're relying on distance learning and yet there are gatekeepers to the actual information, then that's an issue. outside of that, I think the Vimeo, I think that's not only going to last so long because that already sounds exhausting to me to have to like
Yeah.
download every single video, upload it, relink it. So I don't know, Jenna, if you have any.
I mean, I was thinking, I was wondering if a site like ViewPure, you know how you can take a YouTube link and put it into ViewPure to just get the YouTube video without any distractions. And so I'm wondering if that link would be allowed instead of just the YouTube link. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Worth
Did you say View Pure?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
viewpure.com.
.com. Okay.
Mhm.
Because I know.
Yeah, let's talk offline, Bernadette. I'd love to like
thank
help.
you. Thank you so much.
Brainstorm
Yeah,
this.
please.
That's a big issue. What district is? Oh no, don't tell me what district.
Yeah. Kirsten, you're muted.
I am muted. Thank you. Math team has reviewed online mathematics resources and would like to share the following list with you. You will see that these resources, yeah, can you click on that? Thanks. You will see that these resources are from preschool all the way to grade 12. Some of these might look really familiar to you. For example, 3-Act Math is in there, Engage New York is in there. And there's some other ones that you might not have seen before, such as Gapminder or Playground. So as you're looking through this list and scrolling down, you'll notice on the left-hand side is the name of the resource. Then it has the specific grade levels or the specific like teacher or TOSA or administrator, and then the URL is on the right-hand side with the summary. So there, I know you're getting bombarded with lots and lots of resources, but this is just one that the math team has vetted, and we would highly recommend anything that's on this list. And so with that being said, we have, the math team has mathematics open collaboration sessions. They're held from 3:30 to 4 o'clock. And here's the Zoom link to access those. We're actually gonna, it says daily, but we change it to Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We're finding as the math team that those are the days that most folks have wanted to engage in conversations with us. So again, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We've also recorded today's webinar, and we had one yesterday as well. And so if you click on the here link right there, it has the schedule, and it has schedule of the different webinars, and it has a link of the recordings as well. So definitely feel free to share this with others that you are working with, because there's a lot of great resources. So on behalf of Jenny, Bernadette, and myself, we'd like to thank you for attending our webinar today. And if you have any questions about anything with mathematics, please feel free to reach out to either one of us. We'd be more than happy to help you. And also thank you to Jenna and Abby for your support in putting this webinar together today and all the things you've done behind the scenes. We definitely couldn't have done it without you. So thanks everyone, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.